let us first list down the syllabus, and then actually I will analyze the syllabus, and then actually I will try to cover some of the basic concepts that are needed so that actually you can actually understand this particular topic, right? So first let me list down the syllabus. So mechanics and fluid dynamics. So this is a complete topic, but in that actually we will start with only the fluid dynamics now, and then actually later actually we can convert. So we can cover this mechanics at the end of this particular topic, right? So first we list down only the fluid dynamics, then actually we can discuss later. Right. So equation of continuity. Equation of continuity, and then Euler's equation of motion. Euler's equation of motion. Streamlines. Path of the particle. Potential flow. Axisymmetric flow. Sources and sinks. Right, potential flow. So this is a two-dimensional flow. Vortex motion and Navier-Stokes equation. Or viscous fluid. Right. Okay. Right. So this is the entire syllabus actually what we are going to discuss. Now in this is very short syllabus, but there are certain derivations actually that you need to understand in this particular topic. And the background that is needed is actually, there are two different topics actually that are needed. One is the complex analysis. And the second one is the vector calculus. So these two topics, the background is needed. And other than that, actually, this is one of the very, very easy topic. So here actually, don't worry about whether these topics are covered or not, because I'm going to give all the insights. So today itself, actually, I will cover some of the important concepts that are needed to analyze this particular fluid dimension. So fluid dynamics with the help of the complex analysis and the vector calculus, whatever the background that is needed, I'm going to cover it completely. Then only actually I will go into the actual topic. So that actually you have to keep it in mind. So don't worry whether this particular topic is complex or not. And then actually, to my understanding, so the questions that are coming is directly from the some of the standard textbooks, and those two standard textbooks are, one is the Santhi Swarup, and the second one is MD Rai Singhania. So these are the two standard textbooks. And then actually, if you notice, the content whatever is there in both of these textbooks is 100% exactly the same, the difference at all. But the Santhi Swarup actually it was written long back, and this was written recently, but 100% whatever is covered in the Santhi Swarup is exactly replicated here, so without having any deviations. So some of the mistakes that were there in the derivations, actually those were corrected in MD Rai Singhania. So that's why actually I suggest you to buy MD Rai Singhania. That is one of the big book, but actually that seems to be complicated. Don't worry about the complexness of this fluid dynamics, because I will make you simplified to solve each and every aspect of the fluid dynamics. Because if you notice in this particular topic, fluid dynamics, right, almost everybody feels that actually this is one of the very complex topic. But in reality, actually, you don't need to solve all such level of the complexity at all. What you need to do is actually there are some standard questions that are coming exactly from the UPSC previous year questions itself, and those models actually you have to be thorough with. So only those models you focus it. Don't try to solve the entire book, because actually that will be very complex book that you can think of. But background that is needed to understand that particular topic is actually the complex analysis and the vector calculus. These are the two important topics that you have to be pretty clear with, right? And then actually what is this particular topic is talking about. Let me analyze this particular syllabus first. And this syllabus is, so it starts with actually equation of continuity, right? So before going into this particular topic, this equation of continuity, first of all, actually, let me talk about this one. So suppose if I randomly give the fluid, and then actually I'm asking you to analyze the fluid, then actually what is meant by that question at all? If I'm asking you to analyze the fluid, then actually what I'm expecting from you, what are the information that I'm looking from you if I ask you to analyze the fluid? Can somebody give me an idea? Give me an idea what is meant by analyzing a fluid. All properties of the fluid, viscosity, velocity, direction, behavior. Okay, so behavior is a general term, so let me give you an exact pinpoint to that. Now actually, especially we were talking about, so fluid actually one of the very complex topic I can say, because actually fluid dynamics itself actually there are many PhD theses. Now here the fluid actually specifically we were talking about one category of the analysis, that is the fluid dynamics. Fluid statics is completely different. So fluid statics actually we will be analyzing the pressure and then actually calculating the pressure and measuring the velocity. All such kind of things are actually only the statics part. The fluid dynamics actually we are specifically targeting at actually a single quantity called the velocity. So this is a single agenda of this entire topic. So all the syllabus is actually in and around, try to rotate around a single point called the velocity, right? So because actually we were talking about the fluid velocity or fluid dynamics. So in the fluid dynamics actually, what are all the important aspects of this fluid dynamics? Whenever actually if I am asking you to analyze the velocity or the kinematics or the mechanics, if you talk about, specifically what we are targeting it is, so there are few aspects. One is, so suppose if I say the kinematics, right? So in the kinematics, what we are targeting is, what is the displacement? Displacement. And what is the velocity? What is the velocity? And then actually what is the acceleration? Right? And then actually what is the energy associated? Associated with the particle. Right? So these are all the fundamental aspects actually that we are targeting whenever we are talking about a moving particle. It doesn't matter whether it is a solid particle, actually whether it is a fluid particle. If your particle is moving, then actually all of these things actually we are interested to identify. Because actually how much, suppose actually if I am going on a bike, actually immediately like, so what is the speed you are traveling, or what is the acceleration you are using to travel, or actually how much distance you wanted to travel. All these questions actually automatically actually we are asking. That means actually that is the kind of information we are looking at whenever we are talking about some kind of the moving particle, right? Now even here also, if I'm asking you to identify the fluid particle, so the fluid dynamics, to analyze it, then actually you are interested in identifying the velocity. So velocity itself has actually certain characteristics. So velocity actually, one is the magnitude of the velocity, and another is the direction of the velocity. So these are the two important aspects of any velocity, right? So magnitude also you have to be aware of it, and the direction also actually you have to be aware of it. Now all other things like the density or the pressure or actually the flow rate, all those things actually are indirectly playing the role to decide this particular velocity. So under such conditions, suppose under this particular pressure or at this particular height, what is the velocity? So finally you are asking about the velocity, but given certain conditions. If the flow is of viscous, then actually what is the velocity? If the flow is of non-viscous, then what is the velocity? If it is subjected to this much of pressure, then what is the velocity? All such kind of questions actually we are targeting it in the case of the fluid dynamics. Finally, we are targeting at a single point called the velocity. Now actually, suppose if I am asking you to analyze the fluid flow, then actually fluid flow meaning now actually how to quantify. Suppose actually if I am throwing this particular pen, then actually immediately if I ask the question what is the velocity, then actually you are targeting this particular pen, and then actually for this particular pen I am measuring the velocity, I am measuring the displacement, I am measuring the acceleration, everything I can measure it, because I know that there is a clear cut shape and there is a clear cut movement of this particular particle I can make out. But suppose actually if there is a fluid that is traveling, then actually how can you identify the velocity of the fluid? So which one you will identify? Like actually fluid is consistent, so that is a continuous media, because it is not a single point. So every particle is having its own velocity. Then what is the velocity you will be talking about? Can somebody give me an idea what is the velocity you will be talking about in the case of the fluid? Because actually fluid is not a single particle, that is a continuous media. Then which part actually you are going to target it, or which part velocity you are going to say? Right? Now actually the fundamental question of the method of analyzing fluid, actually that question needs to be answered first. So how to analyze all particle at same level? Yeah. So there are different answers, but actually there is a scientific way of analysis. The scientific way of analysis is, suppose actually if I am asking you to analyze the behavior of all the persons that are going into a particular college, let us say. Now actually how you are going to analyze? I am giving a statement, analyze the behavior of all the students entering into the classroom or actually entering into a particular college. Now that is the statement, behavior of all the students. Now how? So what is the methodology you are going to adapt? So this is a simple question, exactly we can replicate to the fluid flow. So Rutuja gave more or less the exact answer. So there are two different ways of analyzing it. So there are two different ways of analyzing. How we are going to analyze is, there are two ways. Now actually try to identify each and every person, and then actually try to trace throughout his day actually how he is behaving. That means actually for each person actually we need to assign a person who is an observer to analyze the behavior of that particular person. So but actually he keeps on travels along with that particular person and then trying to analyze his behavior. That means actually you need as many observers as that of the number of students that are present within that particular college. That is one way of analyzing it. There is one more way of analyzing it. Suppose actually the watchman actually who is present at the gate, actually he will note down what is the behavior of each and every person while he is crossing that particular point, right? And then actually we'll keep one more point which is a checkpoint. We'll keep one more watchman there, and then actually he will try to identify whoever is crossing that particular point and how they are behaving. That means actually we are fixing the location of the observation and then actually try to analyze whoever is crossing that particular part, right? We will be analyzing the behavior of that particular persons there. Another way is actually try to identify one single person and then try to trace throughout the day. So that is another way. So these are the two different ways of the analysis that we can adapt in any continuous media, right? Now these two different ways are actually, one is called as the Lagrange's way of analysis. And another is the Euler's way of analysis. So these are the two different methodologies actually that are going to be used to analyze any particular continuous media. Now actually we are fixing a single point, and then actually that single point actually whatever the particle that is crossing that particular point, actually we are trying to analyze the velocity of that particular particle, and then what is the direction of the particle it is traveling, and what is the path it is going to take very next moment. All such kind of aspects actually we will get to know by fixing at a single point, and then actually we will try to identify all the particles that are passing through that, and that way of analysis is called as the Euler's way of. So this is actually fixing the point of observation. So this is actually fixing the point of observation. Now here actually identifying a particle, so identifying a particle, and then observe throughout, and this is called as identification of the single particle and then observing throughout its lifetime. Actually this is called as the Lagrange's way of analysis. And the second one is actually fixing the location in the space, and then actually as an when it is at a specific time, actually we will be trying to analyzing that, and that is what is called as the Euler's way of analysis. And this is what we call as, so this is what actually in this particular syllabus actually we have called this actually Euler's equation of motion. This is exactly what we are going to do it, right? Euler's way of analysis, or the Euler's equation of motion, right? So you will be identifying the velocity of the particle, you will be identifying the path of the particle, and then actually you will be identifying the direction of the particle. So all such kind of things actually we will be analyzing with the help of the Euler's equation of motion, which essentially means that we are fixing the single point. Now actually, suppose if I give the velocity of the particle, then actually what could be the mode of velocity? Mode of velocity meaning, now actually if I say that I am traveling with 100 kilometers per hour, let us say. So I am traveling on a car with a speed of 100 kilometers per hour. Now actually this is a single number I am associating. Now actually, when we talk about any fluid that is traveling in a pipe, let us say, do you think the particle is having a single velocity at each and every point? Obviously no, right? At every point actually it is going to be having a different velocities, obviously. Now actually in that case, actually if I ask you to give the velocity of the fluid, will you be coming up with a single number saying that this fluid is traveling with a velocity of 100 meters per second, like that? So is it coming in that way? Right? Obviously it won't be, right? So then actually obviously you can expect that the velocity of the particle will be the space coordinates and the time coordinates, obviously, right? So the velocity will be a function of the space and time always. So because actually at every point it will be different, and at the single point also the velocity will be different. That is actually, now actually suppose I talk about a single particle that is traveling, suppose, so this is one point of observation I wanted to keep it, whose coordinates are x comma y comma z. So this is the coordinates of this particular particle. Now let us say I call this as x1, y1 and z1, and this is one more place actually where I am trying to put an observation where the coordinates are x2, y2, z2. So this is actually one more point. Now when the particle is crossing this particular point, then actually we know that actually what is the velocity associated by this particular particle at this particular location. And that actually obviously it has to be a function of these particular coordinates, because at that particular point what will be the velocity, it has to be decided by the position of this particular particle. Now let us say the particle actually it's already crossed, and one more particle is coming after some time. Obviously after a time of t actually there is one more particle that is crossing. That particle may be having the same velocity or may not be having the same velocity. It may be having a different velocity also. Then actually obviously the velocity usually which is represented with a letter called q. So this velocity is a function of x comma y comma z comma t. So this is how the velocity is going to be associated, obviously. So it won't be like a single number, like the way what we calculate in the case of the bike speed or the car speed, right? And then actually this is one more point, and the same particle actually when it is crossing this particular point, it may be having a different value of the velocity, obviously here. So this way, the same particle we were talking about. So the particle which is crossed at this particular point, it is having a different velocity. The same particle at this particular point is having a different velocity. And then actually obviously it will be a function of again the xyz coordinates along with the time. So this is how actually you will be tracing out the velocity as a function of x, y, z, t. So space and time coordinates together actually it will be taken together, right? So this is the Euler's way of analysis. So this is what we are going to find it out. And then actually whenever we were talking about any specific analysis, right, there are certain standard physics principles actually that will play very, very crucial role. So any analysis, whatever we are going to do it, it shouldn't be above the rules of the physics, right? There are certain standard physics rules actually which will apply across the universe. So those standard principles are, one is the law of conservation of energy. The second one is the law of conservation of mass. The third one is the law of conservation of momentum. And the fourth one is the law of conservation of charge. And then actually angular momentum is also the law of conservation of angular momentum. So these are all the some of the standard principles of the physics and which will rule the entire talk. So not only this particular fluid dynamics, so whatever may be the subject you talk about, all those subjects actually needs to play the role under these principles. But in our fluid dynamics, there is only one rule actually we were talking about, which we need to deeply discuss. This is the one. So that is the law of conservation of mass. And in our syllabus actually this particular statement actually is given in the form of the continuity equation. So continuity equation, actually the other term is the law of conservation of mass. Obviously, actually if there is a continuity, then obviously the law of conservation of mass actually that needs to be valid. How it is going to be, let me explain. See this actually, suppose let us say you are in one particular room, right? Imagine that particular room. In that particular room, let us say there is completely filled with water, this particular room. Now if there is any extra water actually that is entering into this particular room, it is expected that as this is completely filled up with water already, the same amount of the water whichever is entering, the same amount of needs to go out at some location, then only actually this water can enter into. That means actually as this is completely filled up, then actually whatever is entering extra, that has to go out. So this is what we call as the law of conservation of mass, because nothing can be created here, nothing can be vanished here, right? So obviously the law of conservation of mass needs to be valid. That means if there is a continuous flow, it is expected that whatever is entering, it has to go out exactly. So that is what we call as the continuity. So this is what is called as the law of conservation of mass. And mathematically actually we do learn the same thing in the case of the vector calculus as the divergence. So divergence is nothing but the expandability. So divergence. So divergence actually in vector calculus actually we do learn this. So the meaning of this is the expandability or diverging nature, right? So this is called as the diverging nature is nothing but, suppose let us say I have explained the same principle, like actually the law of conservation of mass, whatever we are talking about. Now actually in this particular room, it is completely filled up with the air, let us say. And then actually some amount of the air actually that is entering in from this particular door. And then actually the same amount of the air actually may go out of the other door, or actually it may still there as long as if there is a nature of compressibility for the air present within this particular room. That means if you are able to compress it and then actually you can accumulate more and more, then actually you will be still be able to accommodate within this particular room, provided whatever the content that is present within this particular room is having a nature of compression, obviously, right? So if it is having a nature of compression, then only actually you can extra put into this particular room. If there is no way you can compress it, then actually that's what we call as the incompressible fluid. In that case actually the same amount whatever is entering actually it has to go out. So that means actually if there is a room like this, whatever is entering here actually it has to go out, provided the same thing entering and same thing is going, provided this is of non-compressible, right? So this is by common sense actually you can make out. If it is non-compressible, obviously the same thing whatever is entering it has to go out. And this is actually mathematically we can prove that the del dot, the function whatever is present here, so this is actually modeled as a mathematical function. That function actually del dot f, if you call this, so this is going to be of 0. So provided f is an incompressible fluid field, right? So f is a incompressible fluid field, is an incompressible fluid field. Now actually I will explain elaborately on this particular fluid field. So this field term actually, this is the 100% knowledge of this fluid dynamics completely. The field as actually we have to be aware of it. I will explain in detail. So down the line. Now del dot f is equal to 0. So this is nothing but no expandability, no compressibility. In such case actually we are going to get del dot f is equal to 0, and this is nothing but actually the continuity equation itself. So why we call this as the continuity equation is because whatever is entering it has to go out, then only if there is nothing inside. So that means if it is completely filled up, then only actually it will be the same thing whatever is entered actually it has to go out because it is already completely filled up with it. Suppose if it is completely empty, then actually whatever is coming here actually there is no need to go out. So that means actually this is having a nature of sinking. That means actually it could able to sink, and then actually it can get more and more outside, because actually there is completely empty here. So this is what is called as the compressibility. So compressibility, if it is there, then actually compressibility, if it is there, del dot F value is a negative value. It is a compressible. If it is expandable, that means actually suppose this room is actually already filled up with certain, so this level of gas actually if it is filled. Now gas actually it is already having the expandable nature. That means actually it can accommodate the entire room actually by expanding on its own, and hence actually this room actually, even though it is not getting anything from the outside, as a little bit of gas is already present, so this will be able to expand completely, and then actually it will be able to occupy the entire room. And this is what is called as the expandability, where this fluid field whatever is present within this, so del dot F value is going to be a positive value. So depending upon this value, so this F being a fluid field which represents, then you can operate del on it. So if del dot F is a positive value, then actually it is having an expandable nature. If del dot F is a negative value, then actually it is going to be a compressible nature. And if del dot F is equal to 0, it is not expandable, not compressible, and hence actually the same thing whatever is entering here actually it has to go out, and this is what we call this as the continuity equation. So for a continuity equation, obviously del dot F value has to be 0, where F is the fluid field. So that field actually, field representation actually we have to be aware of it. Now what is meant by this fluid field? Now actually field actually, the general term field is nothing but, suppose take the simple case, suppose if I leave this particular pen here, then actually it is expected that it is going to down, right? Now actually if I go to the other place, let us say I am going to Bangalore, and then actually if I drop the pen there, and even then also actually it is exactly falling down. Now where is the point of application of the force here? Because actually force is quantified with 3 different characteristics always. Now whenever we talk about any particular force, so let us say there is a block of mass, then actually if I try to apply a force on this, and this force actually it will be having its own characteristics. The first characteristic is the amount of the force. So amount of the force is nothing but the magnitude of the force. So this is the magnitude is one important characteristic. So that means with what force, how much is the force that is applied on this particular block, and that is what we call that as the amount of the force or the magnitude of the force. And this is one important characteristic. And the second important characteristics of this particular force is the direction of the force. So direction of the force, meaning here actually if you apply the force in this direction, it will try to move in this direction. If I apply the force in this direction but the same magnitude, but it will move in the opposite direction. That means in which direction you are applying the force actually does matters here a lot. So this is the second important characteristics of the force. And the third important characteristics is the point of application of the force. So this actually makes the difference between the single force and the field. So this third point is very, very crucial here. The point of application of the force. For this particular force, I am sure that this is the location where this is applied. Now with the same force, with the same direction, same magnitude, I can apply even here also like a parallel force like this. But the point of application of the force is different, but it is having the same magnitude and the same direction. So this is another important characteristic. Now, as we are talking about a single force, obviously actually you will be able to quantify all these 3 characteristics of the force. Now in the case of the continuous flow or the continuous media, now in this particular case, if I say, if I am leaving the pen here, actually I am sure that actually it is going to be dropped down here itself. Now if I go to outside, then actually there if I leave the pen again, actually it is dropping exactly there only on the ground. Now where is the point of application of the force? Something has to draw this particular to the downward direction, right? And then actually it is drawing downward direction. That means actually here I can feel that actually the point of application of the force on this pen is at this particular tip, and this is dragging like this. Now if I go to somewhere, then actually again the point of application is there only, but actually it is acting on this particular tip, and there actually it is trying to drop down there. Now where is the point of application altogether? If I notice, there is no point of application. So the force is continuously distributed throughout. So it's not at a single position. Now where do you identify this point of application? So this is not going to be a single point of application. Now wherever you go, then actually there you feel that intensity of that particular force of that particular magnitude. And this kind of scenario where the force is distributed across an infinite location, we call that as a field. So this is very, very important concept that you need to understood. So this is the only thing that makes the difference from our normal mathematics to this fluid flow analysis. So this is a distributed force. Now again, actually, you will come up with the question that if this is a distributed force, then actually how do you quantify that? So there has to be a quantification, right? So you are talking about a force. Now actually, see this, if I drop this particular pen, then actually it is going to travel certain distance. Now if I lift to a little bit higher location, then actually again it is going to have a force towards the downward direction only, but actually it is going to have so it is having the ability to travel a bigger distance. That means actually depending upon the position, the amount of the force actually is acting on this is different. And then actually the direction of the force also, in this particular case of the gravitation, it may be exactly the same. So the gravitational field is actually very easy to analyze than the fluid flow. So gravitational field having two different characteristics. One is the amount of the force actually is exactly the same, which we call this as the weight of this particular block. The weight, whether I keep it here, actually if I keep it here or if I keep it here, actually it will not make any difference, because there is a constant weight of this particular block, which we call this as the force towards the ground, that is acting on this. So this is a unique characteristic of this particular block. And then actually the direction is always towards the downward direction, we do feel it. But this is not the case actually with other kind of fields. Now the fields are actually, generally we were talking about 4 different kinds of fields actually we will be analyzing in our engineering analysis. So those 4 different fields are, one is the gravitational field, the second one is the fluid field, and the third one is electric field, and the fourth one is the magnetic field. So these are the 4 different kinds of fields actually we will be talking about in our engineering analysis. So because of this reason only actually we do learn there is something called the field theory. So in all these cases actually the force is continuously distributed across your different locations. So this is all the distributed forces. Now this distributed forces actually specifically we were talking about this fluid field. Now actually I will give you a simple example of the electric field so that actually you will get a better idea. Now suppose actually if I say this, now let us say there is a charge of magnitude Q here, and then actually there is a force acting on this particular charge, and then actually, so this is actually, there is 1 coulomb charge. If I bring it to this particular location, then this charge of 1 coulomb is going to be having a force on this. Obviously this is going to be reflecting in this particular direction. Now the direction, if you notice, in this particular direction actually it is trying to reflect it, and then actually if I keep it at this particular location, then actually it is trying to apply the same force but in a different direction actually it is trying to see. So that means depending upon the location of the force actually you can see that. Okay, I will repeat the field definition. Okay, so here actually this is 1 coulomb of the charge actually which is there here, and then actually there is a charge of magnitude Q. It is trying to reflect in this particular direction. Now the same charge, if I keep it here, actually it is going to have a different direction. Now the field is actually such a way that actually it is distributed across all the direction. So this is how actually the field is actually distributed. Field distribution meaning the field actually by definition we can say that the imaginary lines of force in the direction of which actually the force is actually acting on it. So the field are nothing but actually imaginary lines of force. So imaginary lines of force, why we call this as the imaginary lines of force is, so the field actually a distributed force. So that actually the force you can feel it everywhere, but of different magnitude, maybe of different direction, but the influence is felt everywhere in that particular region. So that is what we call as the field in that particular region. Now in this particular case you can clearly visualize what is a field. Now see this actually, unless I keep 1 coulomb charge here, actually I will not feel the force about that this particular charge. Unless I keep 1 coulomb charge here, then only I will feel that actually there is a force that is acting on this. But exactly in the similar manner, suppose actually if I am standing like this, actually we may not feel any force, but actually if I drop this particular pen, then actually we can feel that there is a force acting on pen towards the downward direction. Now again actually on the other side, if I see that actually there is nothing there, Now if I go there and drop the pen, then actually I can feel that actually it is dropping down there itself, right? So is it necessary that the force is distributed equally? Obviously it's not, right? The force is distributed, it may not be of equal. That's exactly the reason actually why I said that. So gravitational field is actually very easy to analyze, because in our analysis, at least to the gravitational level, actually we will be talking about the equal force and always towards the downward direction. So this is a constant magnitude force which is distributed across, which will be exactly the weight of this particular particle. That means the weight of this particle, if I keep it here versus if I keep it on the road, actually it will not make any difference unless I go a large distance like hundreds of kilometers above the earth, right? So that's why actually the gravitational field is a simpler field to analyze. But by definition, the distributed force, it will be having different directions and different magnitudes of the force, but the influence is felt everywhere. And that is what is called as the field. I hope you understood. Right? Visitor 817981. Right? So that is how actually we can say that actually the field is distributed force across, but it may be having a different field, different direction and different magnitude also. That is very important to understand, because all the fields actually whatever we are talking about in the case of fluid dynamics are only different values of the magnitude and directions also. Now the mathematical question comes. Now how do we represent a field which is having different magnitudes and different directions at different locations? Obviously, right? Then actually it is expected that we were talking about the space coordinates. That means the position coordinates. Now if I define a vector, let us say I define a vector f, and which is a vector, and this vector I am defining in such a way that, so phi of x comma y comma z. So phi of x comma y comma z in the direction of I plus psi of x comma y comma z in the direction of j plus xi of x comma y comma z in the direction of k. Now if I define a vector, and this vector, if you notice, this is a function of the coordinates. So this is the space coordinates. Depending upon the location, this will be having a different value, this will be having a different value, and this will be having a different value. So obviously every value is different, and depending upon the values of this, then actually I, j, k values are there. So I, j, k are the unit vectors in the direction of x, in the direction of y, and the direction of z. And this vector, whatever we are representing, obviously you can conclude that this will represent a vector field, or to be specific, force field. So this force field representation actually, so general term is the vector field, but specifically we are applying for the vector, so force field. And this force field, if you notice, at different locations it is going to be having a different magnitude, this vector, and at location it is going to be having a different direction, obviously. So you can model a field like a vector like this. Is this understood? This is very important to understand, right? So this is how actually we represent a field. That means we came up with an idea that we were talking field, which is a vector field. This vector field actually has to be represented in this manner. Obviously it is having all the characteristics of the field. The characteristics of the field is at different locations it will be having a different magnitude and different direction, and that is quantifying as a field, right? So this is what we call as the okay. So this is the force field actually we understood, right? Now on this vector field, if you apply del, then actually this del represents the continuity. That means del dot f value, if you calculate it, so del is an operator, so if it is equal to 0, then this is called as an incompressible fluid, or that particular fluid field actually is having the nature of the incompressibility, which essentially means that, so this is nothing but, which essentially means this is the continuity equation. This is called as the continuity equation, right? So this f is a vector field. Yeah, so we are calling it specifically as a vector field because the force is distributed across all the three different coordinates. Now actually we can simplify it to that any extent. That is, if you are asking about only a single dimensional flow where it is simply dependent on the x direction itself, then actually you don't need to consider the yz at all. So we do have a specific syllabus in our fluid dynamics, that is the two-dimensional flow. So the two-dimensional flow actually which essentially means that now actually we will be defining the fluid field in such a manner that, so f is a function of x comma y only. Now phi of x comma y into I plus psi of x comma y into j, and this is what is a fluid field still, but it will be of only 2 dimensions, right? So hence actually this is a 2-dimensional flow. Hence actually there is a specific topic called, we do have a 2-dimensional flow analysis. So 2-dimensional flow is nothing but a fluid field which is defined only for the 2 dimensions, not for the 3 dimensions, right? Okay. So why the force has the compressibility? So it's not the force that is having the compressibility, it is having the content that is present, but that is behaving as if like it is the field. So the content will be having the compressibility nature, it's not the force. So that content actually will be associated with certain force nature. That force nature is represented like a field. Got it? Right? Okay. So this is what we call as the fluid field. Now actually, at least actually to some extent actually we simplified our analysis. The simplified analysis is actually, we don't have in our syllabus the 3-dimensional analysis, but the analysis is exactly the same actually, but we need to use the 3-dimensional coordinates. And we'll be only the 2-dimensional analysis. That's what actually we do represent the force field actually in a 2-dimensional way. This makes actually our analysis is actually so simplified. So the complex analysis actually completely simplified into a simpler way. And this actually, this we usually represent with the complex function. So now actually a force is a 2-dimensional force now. So this force field is a 2-dimensional force field. Now the complex functions actually will come into picture. So W is equal to phi plus I psi if I represent it. Now this actually a complex function. So this is a complex function. So this complex function actually, if you notice W actually I have defined this way x comma y into I plus psi of x comma y into j. Now see this, we were talking about only a 2-dimensional flow, and that 2-dimensional flow actually I could able to represent with a complex function. And this is exactly the reason the force field actually is modeled into a complex function now. And this complex function analysis actually we were doing it. Exactly what we learned in the case of the complex analysis actually, in that specifically actually I have taken one class. That class is specifically actually for analyzing the fields actually I have taken that, and that class knowledge is sufficient enough to go through the entire fluid dynamics and you feel it very, very easy, right? So that one topic is sufficient enough. Anyway, I will cover that now again. Now see this actually phi plus I psi. Phi plus I psi actually, and in the complex domain actually if you notice, these two are actually always perpendicular to each other. So these two are called always perpendicular to each other because phi and psi are defined in such a way that actually these two are always perpendicular to each other. Because any complex number, if you say z is equal to x plus iy, and you know that actually x is always in a 90 degrees to the y direction, or actually y is always in 90 degrees to the x direction. That means, so wherever a multiplication of I, which implies that there is an anti-clockwise rotation of 90 degrees. So that means if there is a vector like this, and then actually I'll just put it in the next slide. See this. So this is, let us say there is a vector of magnitude a in this particular direction, simply a. So we represent as a real number like a. And this, the same thing actually we can even represent this as x is equal to ai. So this is also a vector. So you can represent as a simple real number as a, or you can represent as a vector x is equal to ai, where I is a unit vector in the direction of x. But in the case of the complex notation actually, this I and j are actually intermittently used. So both will convey the same meaning, that this is having a definition of -1 under root. So this I is different and this I is different. So this is a unit vector in the direction of x, and this I meaning square root of -1. So this is used in the complex domain and this is used in the 2-dimensional vectors. Now if you multiply with a I, so this I if you multiply it, it gives a definition that, so that multiplication of this particular vector with a magnitude of I, which is equal to square root of -1, so it will rotate this vector in the anti-clockwise direction by an angle of 90 degrees. So this is what is the meaning of this. So I by definition actually, so by multiplication, it rotates in anti-clockwise direction. By an angle of 90 degrees. So 90 degrees. So this can be justified now. So this can be justified as, See this, so AI actually it is rotated by an angle of 90 degrees. Again, if you multiply with, so this value actually, this is going to be of I square times of A. But in reality, if you notice, this is a right side real number, actually it will be a positive number. The left side real number from the origin, actually it will represent a negative number. Hence, actually this is equal to minus of A. So from this, you can infer that I square is equal to minus 1. So this is the meaning of it. Again, if you multiply with one more I, then actually this will be rotated again in the anti-clockwise direction by 90 degrees. Hence, actually this is going to be of I cube times of A. This is so I square times of AI. So I square times of AI is minus of AI. If you notice, this is exactly opposite to this particular AI in the opposite direction. So again, actually it is satisfying the rule. Again, if you multiply with one more I, then actually this is going to be of I power 4 times of A. So this is of I square into A. So this is going to be of minus 1 into A. So this will be equal to A. So that means by definition, I is nothing but in the complex domain, rotation of the vector by an angle of 90 degrees in the anti-clockwise direction. So this is the definition of it. That means if you talk about Z is equal to X plus IY, that means with respect to X, there is an anti-clockwise rotation of 90 degrees, which will give the value of Y. The same concept can be extended for this particular vector. So W is equal to phi of X comma Y plus I times of psi of X comma Y. Now phi of X comma Y and I times of psi of X comma Y, meaning usually phi of X comma Y, let us say if it represents one particular line in this particular direction, then actually from this particular direction, there will be a rotation in the anti-clockwise direction of an angle of 90 degrees. So if this is the vector, which is a tangent to this particular curve, which represents the phi of X comma Y, then actually there is one more vector actually maybe of this way, and this tangent, if you draw it, actually these two will always be at 90 degrees to each other. And this represents the psi of X comma Y. So that means if this particular function represents one set of curves, then the other set of curves actually will always be at 90 degrees to this particular set of curves. So there is a clear-cut relation between these two, and this actually we proved even in the case of the complex analysis also. We proved that these two are always perpendicular to each other, and this concept actually we use to a greater extent at this particular stage of the fluid dynamics. Why we have to use this is, so now actually we will just name this particular ones as the first one. Actually we always, so generically actually we discussed this in the case of the complex analysis as phi plus I, which represents two different orthogonal functions. Now actually we will just name this. The names what we adopt in the case of fluid dynamics is, this is what is called as the potential. So this is called as the potential function, and this function we always call this as the stream function, right? So this is a potential function, this is the stream function. Now the stream function actually by definition what it says is the potential function is different and the stream functions are different, and these two are always perpendicular to each other. This is the nature of the physical problem statement of any fluid flow analysis, or actually for that matter any field analysis. So in any field analysis actually there will be a set of field lines, and there is a there is a set of streamlines, there is a set of the potential lines. These two are actually always perpendicular to each other, right? See, so with the help of the complex analysis, so we have got a lot of flexibility to analyze the fluid field. The flexibility, that's what we have got, is because of this particular nature. So this particular nature actually, so this particular nature of having the perpendicular nature to two different functions, it will be directly having the advantage and direct applications in the case of the fluid dynamics, which will be a much more complicated analysis if we adopt the two-dimensional vector analysis. So that complexity we will simplify now itself. See this, how it is going to be done is, now we know that if you take this particular function, psi of X comma Y is equal to constant. So this is a particular function which we call this as the stream function. So this is called as the stream function. So all these terminologies actually down the line we are going to use it. So this is called as a stream function. And this stream function actually, if you apply the derivative of this particular function with respect to X, then actually if you apply the total derivative of it, so this is dou psi by dou X into dou X, so dx by dx plus dou psi by dou Y into dy by dx equal to 0. So if you apply the derivative total derivative on this. So this is how actually you are going to get it. So this dx will cancel. Then dy by dx you can call this as minus of dou psi by dou x divided by dou psi by dou y. So dy by dx value, which is nothing but by definition any two-dimensional curve, the derivative value will always represent the slope. So this represents the slope of the function of psi of x comma y is equal to constant. So psi of x comma y equal to constant function. At any point, if you want to find out the slope of that particular curve, then actually you can identify as minus dou psi by dou x plus dou phi by dou y. Now, Cauchy-Riemann equations in the case of the complex analysis actually, which plays very crucial role in this particular case. So what it plays is, we know that, so I think some people are not attended this complex analysis, but don't worry about it. Whatever the things I explain here, that is sufficient enough. So that knowledge is sufficient enough. So what it says is Cauchy-Riemann equations, if W is equal to U plus IV, where U comma V are the functions of x comma y, then this is being the real part and this is being the complex part, then the first one, dou U by dou x is equal to dou V by dou y. And then actually dou U by dou y is equal to minus of dou V by dou x. And these rules actually are valid only in the case of the complex analysis. So because you know that actually these two functions are perpendicular to each other. So we proved mathematical in the case of the complexes are these rules are valid everywhere if a function is analytic. So here actually these are called as the Cauchy-Riemann equations. Now these Cauchy-Riemann equations actually now in the place of U and V, now we came up with phi plus I psi. So W is defined as phi plus I psi. So that means these values, if you apply the Cauchy-Riemann equations, here actually dy by dx can even be written as minus of dou psi by dou x. So minus of dou psi by dou x actually if you apply the Cauchy-Riemann equations, dou phi by dou x is equal to dou psi by dou y, and then actually dou phi by dou y is equal to minus of dou psi by dou x. So this is dou psi by dou x. So dou psi by dou x is nothing but minus of dou phi by dou y, minus of dou phi by dou y. So minus will become plus, and then actually this is dou psi by dou y. So dou psi by dou y is equal to dou phi by dou x. Dou phi by dou x. So this is what actually we have got, and this value, what we call this as, so the slope of that particular stream function at any point. Now let us keep as it is. Now I will bring out one more theory. So that theory is, so any vector, let us say if you take any particular vector f, and this vector actually, if del cross f is equal to 0, so del cross f is equal to 0, then f can always be expressed as minus of del phi. So this is one theory. So because del cross del f, if apply this one, so del cross del phi is identically 0 if phi is a scalar. So del cross del f actually, so del cross del phi is identically 0 for any vector provided this phi is equal to a scalar function. Yeah, so both the potential and the stream functions are sufficient enough to explain the complete behavior of the fluid flow, right? That is sufficient enough. Now this flow itself actually I will give you completely, actually I will give that analysis. See this, so f is equal to minus del phi, you can always express if phi is a function, del cross del phi is identically 0, meaning if del cross f is equal to 0, then f can always be expressed as del phi, because so this is del cross del phi is always equal to 0, this is a vector identity. So that means f can always be expressed as del phi as long as del cross f is equal to 0. And this del cross f is equal to 0, and this is called as so irrotational flow. So if del cross f equal to 0, then that particular flow we call that as the irrotational flow, because in vector calculus actually we will be learning three different identities. One is the divergence and the curl and the gradient. So there are three different. So let me give a brief insight into that. So del actually is a vector operator actually which was defined as I dou by dou x plus j dou by dou y plus k dou by dou z. And this is how actually a vector operator which was defined in the case of the Cartesian coordinate system. And this is in the case of the Cartesian coordinate system, because the same thing actually it will go much more complex level actually when we define the polar coordinate system and so the cylindrical and the spherical coordinate system down the line. Anyway, I will explain those coordinate systems also. Now actually I dou by dou x plus j dou by dou y plus k dou by dou z, which will be a vector operator, and this vector operator can be operated either on a vector or a scalar, right? So the vector and the scalar, suppose actually if you operate on a scalar function phi, so scalar function actually is represented in this way. So that is phi of x comma y comma z, and this value is called as a scalar function, right? So why we call this as a scalar function is there is no direction associated with this particular one. But the vector function actually, f is defined as phi of x comma y comma z and into I plus psi of x comma y comma z into j plus xi of x comma y comma z into k. See this, the difference between these two, and this is a scalar and obviously this is a vector. So vector function involves actually three different aspects, but the scalar function involves only one aspect. And if you straight away apply this, so this is as if like actually defining that I dou phi by dou x plus j dou phi by dou y plus k dou phi by dou z, right? So this is how we define this as the gradient. So gradient by definition actually it is nothing but the slope, right? So if you take a simple function y is equal to f of x, then the slope of this particular function is nothing but the derivative of this with respect to x. So this is what we call this as f dash of x, and this is what is defined as the slope, right? So this is defined as the slope. Now the same slope if you wanted to define for this particular one, what is the meaning of the slope here? Because this is a scalar function we were talking about, and this scalar function actually, suppose actually phi of x comma y is equal to c. Now there is a function which is dependent on x, dependent on y, and dependent on z. Now the slope actually by definition what we do is, so y is equal to f of x, if you try to represent as if like a curve, then at this particular point if you draw a tangent here, and this tangent slope at this particular point, we call this as the change in the value of y for a change in the value of x, which is nothing but the dy by dx at that particular point. This is a simple definition, but this definition will not hold good in the case of the complex functions which involves three different variables. There, if you notice, phi is a function which is dependent on three different variables. Now the slope needs to be defined in a different manner. So here actually y itself, so this is a function itself, y is a function itself which is dependent on x. But here actually x, y, z are the three different independent variables are there which will decide the value of their function phi. So that means if you identify d phi by dx, then actually this is the change in the value of the phi with respect to x. But this value d phi by dx, if you say, then this dx meaning this is the total derivative. Total derivative meaning we were talking about the change in the value of the function phi when there is a change in the value of x, but this x may be a function of y also or maybe a function of z also, that we don't know. Now actually if you simply consider only the fact that the functional value change only when there is a change in the value of x, assuming that y and z are not dependent, then that's what we call this as the dou phi by dou x. Now we talk about a function, the change in the value of the function when there is a change in the value of x alone, and when there is a change in the value of y alone, and when there is a change in the value of z alone. Now x, y, z values are actually distributed in three different directions which are mutually perpendicular to each other. Now all the variations of the function corresponding to the directions, if you define as a single point, and that's what we call this as the del phi. Now here we are talking about the functional value change, not the y change like this or the x change. So the functional value change with respect to x in the direction of x, and the functional value change in the direction of y with respect to y, and the functional value of phi with respect to z in the direction of k. So like this actually the directions are also considered and the functional value is also considered. Now all the things together actually we have defined this, and this is what we call this as the gradient. So gradient meaning the change in the value of the function with respect to the change in the independent variable, and this is called as the gradient. And we proved that actually in the vector calculus we do prove that actually this will represent a vector which is represented by the surface, this particular surface which is a perpendicular vector. That means actually if this is a surface, this is a flat surface like this, on this actually if you draw a vertical line exactly perpendicular at that particular point, and this direction actually will always be equal to del phi, where this function is of phi of x comma y comma z is equal to c. If this is the function, del phi value actually will give a perpendicular vector. So in the vector calculus, I will clearly explain how it is going to be. That itself is a topic, right? So, but for now actually you understand that actually del phi will always represent a perpendicular vector to that particular surface, and this is one identity. And one more identity which I have already explained, that is del dot f. So this is del dot f. So del dot f is nothing but, so I dou by dou x plus j dou by dou y plus k dou by dou z, and with a dot product of this particular vector phi I plus psi j plus xi k. So the dot product of is I dot I is 1 and dou phi by dou x plus dou phi by dou y plus dou phi by dou z, and this is called as the del dot f value. And this value actually, if it is equal to 0, then actually we call that as a incompressible fluid field. Incompressible fluid field, right? Now the third identity is, that is the del cross f value. So this is a cross product with this particular field, and this is I j k dou by dou x, dou by dou y, dou by dou z, and then phi psi xi. So the determinant of this value actually, this is what actually it represents the rotational component of the field. Right? So rotational component meaning, so these are nothing but the crisscross line. Suppose actually if you talk about your fluid like this, suppose if these are actually going like this, now here actually these lines actually not intersecting each other. So these are actually going parallel, but actually it will be having different directions at different locations. But still actually those are actually not crisscrossing each other. Now for this kind of field, the del cross f value will always be 0. And this kind of fields, which we call this as the irrotational field. So that is still a field, but actually it is having a nature of irrotational. So divergence actually, it is the characteristics of the fluid. So it is not of directional nature, because you see that actually the compressibility actually, do you say that there is any direction that is going to be associated? Obviously not, right? So that's why actually the compressibility nature is nothing but the divergence, hence actually it is going to be a scalar value. So when you take a dot product of it, then it is going to be a scalar value, obviously. So this is called as del dot is a scalar operator, del is a vector operator, right? And so this is called as the irrotational field. Now specifically we were talking about, coming to our previous discussion, right? Specifically we were talking about a fluid field, incompressible in nature, at the same time irrotational in nature. So incompressibility meaning del dot f is equal to 0, and irrotational meaning there are no crisscrosses between the fluid particles here and there. So those are actually going in a parallel manner like this, but it may be having different directions. It can rotate in any direction, but still actually no crisscrosses between the paths. So in such cases actually we call that as an irrotational field, and that irrotational field and the incompressible field, if you talk about, now del cross f is equal to 0 as a vector identity. This f can always be expressed as del phi, because identically del cross del phi is always 0. So this is an identity of, so this is a vector identity. Now keeping this mind, this vector identity keeping in mind, so f can always be expressed as minus del phi. Why it is minus is, so minus is nothing but, see this, whenever suppose actually I am going higher, now actually if I leave this particular pen, then actually it is going down. But see this, the potential energy of this particular pen is going to be increased if I go high. But direction of the flow of this particular pen is actually always opposite to the direction of the increment of the potential energy. Is this understood? Is this understood? So if you go high, then actually the potential energy is going to be increased. But if I leave the pen, actually it will go in the decreasing direction of the potential energy. So this is one of the important characteristics. So the decreasing direction of the potential energy, actually the direction of the fluid always flows. So this negative sign implies that the decreasing direction of the potential function. So this is called as the potential function. And the decreasing direction of the potential function, the fluid will be actually flowing. So Hence actually, so del dot del phi is, so del cross del phi if equal to 0. So this is a vector identity which we will prove in the case of the vector calculus. For now you remember this. So this is a vector identity. Identically it is always 0, del cross del phi. So mathematically we prove in the case of the vector calculus. So now the fluids are actually divided into two different kind of scenarios, where del cross f is equal to 0 and where del cross f not equal to 0. If del cross f is equal to 0, then actually this kind of analysis actually we are going to adopt. Now what is this kind of analysis? Now this kind of analysis, what we are going to do it now, is called as the potential flow analysis. The potential flow analysis is now actually, so let us say, so f can be expressed as, so del phi, let us say. So we'll consider the sign later. Now actually it can be expressed as del phi. Now del phi actually if I express in 2 dimensions, then actually I dou phi by dou x plus j dou phi by dou y, because actually we were trying to express this in a case of the 2-dimensional analysis. So the complex analysis way of analyzing the fluid flow is applicable only for the 2-dimensional flow analysis, not for the 3-dimensional flow analysis. But in our syllabus we have only the 2-dimensional flow analysis, right? So don't worry about the complex level. Now I dou phi by dou x plus j dou phi by dou y, right? So these are the two different things. Obviously del phi value, so this phi is a vector, right? So dou phi by dou x and then actually dou phi by dou y, and these values actually, let us define a vector. So this is a vector here, v. Let us say this is of vx into I plus vy into j, right? Now this vector field, let us say we were talking about the force field, right? So so any field actually it is going to be having del cross v is equal to 0, then actually v can always be expressed as del phi minus del phi, where phi is a velocity field. So there are different kinds of fields. Any equation which satisfies this condition can be expressed in this particular in this particular way, and this will be called as the field of that particular nature. So we were talking about the force field till now. Now actually we have introduced there is something called the velocity field. This velocity field, as long as del cross v is equal to 0, v can always be expressed as minus del phi, and where this phi is called as the velocity field, right? So this velocity field, so velocity potential. So this is called as the velocity potential. Now this value being v can always be expressed as a 2-dimensional vector field as vx into I plus vy into j, then this can be expressed as, assuming this particular sign, so this is dou phi by dou x into I plus dou phi by dou y into j, or which essentially means that vx can be expressed as dou phi by dou x and vy can be expressed as dou phi by dou y. So the velocity vector can be expressed with the help of the velocity field or a velocity potential as dou phi by dou x is equal to vx and dou phi by dou y is equal to vy. So we have got two different velocity vectors, that is the vx direction and the vy direction, and v is equal to vx plus iy. And we were talking about a fluid which is of the incompressible in nature. That means del dot v is also equal to 0. So del dot v, if you apply on this, so this is going to be of I dou by dou x plus j dou by dou y is operated on the velocity vector vx into I plus vy into j, and this value has to be equal to 0 because the fluid is incompressible. So if the fluid is incompressible, obviously the dot product is going to be vanished out. This is going to be of, so dou vx by dou x plus dou vy by dou y equal to 0. Right? So dou vx by dou x plus dou vy by dou y is equal to 0, and we already expressed that vx is equal to dou phi by dou x and vy is equal to dou phi by dou y. Hence actually this can be read with dou by dou x of dou phi by dou x plus dou by dou y of dou phi by dou y is equal to 0. Now this value, after the simplification, this leads to dou square phi by dou x square plus dou square phi by dou y square equal to 0. This is very important conclusion. Now this is what we call as the Laplace equation. So the velocity potential satisfies the Laplace equation. So this is very crucial information for us. So when the case is incompressible and irrotational field. So if the fluid velocity is of having the nature of incompressible and irrotational nature, then the fluid potential will always satisfy the Laplace equation. Now from the complex analysis principles, we concluded that any particular complex function, as long as it is analytic, suppose W is equal to 5 plus I psi. Now if this is an analytic function, if one particular value, so that is in short actually which is represented as del square phi equal to 0, and this is what is called as the Laplace equation, which gives the meaning of dou square phi by dou x square plus dou square phi by dou y square equal to 0 in the case of two-dimensional. And in the complex notation, if phi satisfies the Laplace equation, psi will also satisfy the Laplace equation. Also satisfies the Laplace equation. This we proved in the case of the complex analysis. So that means both will satisfy the Laplace equation. Now we just proved that the phi is actually satisfying the Laplace equation. Obviously, as per the harmonic function theory, there exists a counterpart which will always be a conjugate to that particular function, and those two together actually will give a complex function which is equal to W is equal to 5 plus I psi. And this is what we call as the potential. Obviously, the other one actually, if this is called as the potential, the other one needs to be called as the stream function, because actually these two are perpendicular to each other always. Stream function. Right? Now you understood actually why actually we came up with the complex analysis, because it satisfies the Laplace equation. Hence there is a theory called the harmonic function. So there exists a counter conjugate which is always perpendicular to each other, and these two are actually perpendicular, hence actually both will satisfy the Laplace equation. As the first one we proved that it is satisfying the Laplace equation, then we can be sure that there is a complex function like this. Now this complex function actually, once we came to this particular conclusion, now initially actually we started with this value dy by dx actually, which is the slope of this stream function. And this actually, this value actually we have already expressed in terms of, see this. So dy by dx is equal to dou phi by dou y divided by dou phi by dou x. And this is what actually we proved from the particular stream function. And we just proved that actually dou phi by dou y actually is equal to Vy, and this is going to be of Vx. So that means this is going to be the ratio of the Vy by Vx, which is nothing but the y component of the velocity and the x component of the velocity. Now here actually Vy by Vx actually, obviously this can be expressed as the direction of the particular velocity, because V is expressed as Vx into I plus Vy into j. So this is the velocity of the velocity vector. Then Vy by Vx is nothing but the slope of this particular direction, right? Obviously. So ratio of the y component divided by the x component. Now this particular direction of the Vy by Vx actually, which will be the direction of the velocity at that particular point, that is even equal to the tangent of that particular the stream function curve. So that means the stream function represents the direction of the velocity at any point. So this is important conclusion. Based on this actually we have many problems. Is this understood? Right? So this is actually one important conclusion actually we are going to make use of it. And then actually now one more important aspect is, now see this. So here actually 5 plus I psi, we concluded that there exists a conjugate function. This is called as the stream function, and the slope of which will always represent the direction of the velocity of that particular fluid field. And then actually you know the derivative of this. So the derivative of this actually dw by dz actually, this can be calculated as, so dou phi by dou x plus I times of dou phi by dou psi by dou x, right? Dou psi by dou x. So the derivative of any complex function is always equal to dou phi by dou x plus I times of dou psi by dou x. So real part with respect to x and imaginary part also with respect to x. And this is what is the derivative of any complex function. This also we prove of the complex analysis. Now we will use that now. Now actually if this is how it is, then actually as per the Cauchy-Riemann equations, dou psi by dou x is equal to minus of dou phi by dou y. So that we know that. Now dw by dz can even be expressed as dou phi by dou x plus I times of, now dou psi by dou x can be expressed as per the Cauchy-Riemann equations as minus dou phi by dou y, or this can be expressed as dou phi by dou x minus I times of dou phi by dou y, or this can even be expressed as Vx minus I times of Vy. Now see this. So this is one more important conclusion. So this is the x directional velocity minus I times of y directional velocity. Now if you take the modulus of this dw by dz, and this value if you square it, and this is what actually usually called as the square of the velocity, can even be expressed as Vx square plus Vy square, because the modulus of any complex function is the real part square plus imaginary part square. And then actually this q square is nothing but the modulus of dw by dz value. So this is Vx square plus Vy square, which essentially means that dw by dz whole square will give the velocity square. So this q square is nothing but the velocity of the fluid. As I said earlier, our entire analysis of the fluid dynamics is based on one single fact, that the velocity. So the velocity, now actually we came to a conclusion that we will be able to know the velocity with the help of the complex analysis. Q square is equal to Vx square plus Vy square, which is nothing but the complex function dw by dz whole square. So velocity potential, if you are able to define it, then actually you will be able to identify the magnitude of the velocity, and you will be able to identify the x component of the velocity and the y component of the velocity. And you know that if you know the real part of any particular complex function, you will be able to identify the imaginary part of the function. So now it is completely only the complex analysis what we are doing. There is nothing actually we were dealing with the fluid dynamics analysis, but the fluid dynamics concept actually we do take care. So that is the continuation equation is nothing but the law of conservation of mass, and then actually law of conservation of energy is nothing but the, so law of conservation of energy is nothing but the Bernoulli's principle, actually what we are going to use down the line. So the energy is conserved. So again mass is conserved. These are the two important principles actually we are going to use along with the applications of the complex analysis and the vector analysis together, which will make our complete subject of the fluid dynamics. Is this understood? And this is what is the complete knowledge whatever is required. How effectively we are applying that knowledge is important for us, but nothing new we are going to learn in the case of the fluid dynamics. That's why actually I say that fluid dynamics is the easy topic only. Don't worry about it. There is not of much of complexity, and the problems also straightforward, and then actually straight away you are going to get the questions from the textbook itself.